Hey, what's the story? Today I'm here to complain about books that didn't do it for me while I drink some wine. Welcome to StoryTube. That was not good. That was shit.
A little bit.
Welcome back to StoryTube. Today I'm here to drink wine. What's wrong with me? I feel like I might need a top up at some point. Glass is a little bit dirty. Oh well. Welcome back to StoryTube. It's very difficult. Speaking is difficult. You know, if I don't come up with a good intro, I'm going to drink the first glass of wine before I start the video. We usually try to keep this a very positive space in terms of the book that we've read and enjoyed, but today I'm here to be a little bit salty and I'm going to drink wine and complain about the books that didn't do it for me and that I therefore DNF'd. Cheers. If you follow our channel, you might have picked up on the fact that our videos have been a bit sparse recently, particularly for me, outside of wrap-ups and recommendations from the past. Well, there's a reason for that, and that is that I have had nothing to talk about because I can't seem to finish a book. You could call it a slump, you can call it life happening, being busy, just picking up the wrong books, I don't know. But today I figured since I can't really give you my reading content, you're going to get content about what I'm not reading and what I have failed to read. So I've picked 7 DNFs from 2024 and I'm just going to tell you about them while I get progressively, more bitter. These are in no particular order, by the way, just in the order that they're on the floor next to me, or I remember them. So the first one is Dragon's Bane by Barbara Hambly, and this one actually pains me. I did not admit that I was DNFing this for about 6 months, and it was just on the table. The bookmark is still in it, and the reason for that is that there's no reason really why I was not continuing to read it. I just didn't continue to read it. I think I was just hitting a wall with fantasy, and like a common theme with these is that I committed to too many buddy reads and TBRs this year, even though that's not what I wanted to do. And then there always seemed to be the next thing to get into, and I don't remember what I was reading when I picked this up. And I figured, oh, this will be like a quick read that I read in a couple of days before I start this other thing. And then lo and behold, I probably forgot about a book club or something. So I didn't finish it in those couple of days. And then I didn't finish it at all. This is not a bad book. This is a classic fantasy from the 80s. There's a dragon and somebody who kills dragons, I think. And there's like goblins. This is terrible. I don't remember a whole lot about it, even though I thought up until like 5 minutes ago that I could easily pick this up right where I left off, which is what I've been telling myself the entire time. But I think I need to declutter my brain and just admit that I DNF things when I DNF things. Not a bad book, just not the right time for it. I'll pick it back up someday, but I'll probably have to read the whole thing again. So, yeah, if I had to, drink to forget, just a little sip wasn't that bad. Right, so next up, there's The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray. This is so random. So, Claudia Gray actually also writes Star Wars novels. I've read some of her books before. I think Master and Apprentice was one that I read. And she also writes Jane Austen cozy murder mysteries. So this came about because the month of Evie was in full swing. And I read Persuasion by Jane Austen, and it made me want more in, that world, I guess. I could have just read another Jane Austen. Alas, the brain works in mysterious ways, and so does the mood reading. So I picked up this book that I bought randomly a couple of years ago for some reason, and it's fun. It's basically like fan fiction that's edited, and you have all the couples from Jane Austen's novels in one place for a house party. So obviously they're going to be there for like 2 months. And Mr. Wickham shows up, and nobody likes Mr. Wickham, and lo and behold, he turns up dead, and somebody in the house killed him, and we need to figure out who. So once again, I read half of this book and I was enjoying it. Is this a literary masterpiece? No. Is it trying to be? No. Should it be? No. God, no. So what was wrong with it? I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I think I was wrong with it. There was just a lot going on at the time, and I had a lot of books that I wanted to read. Again, this is going to be a common theme. And while I was having a good time, I wasn't getting anything out of it. It is a very fluffy, cozy murder mystery. There's, you're not going to have an epiphany reading it. So this is also one that I feel like I could just get back to. And I actually did pick it up weeks after having not read anything and read another chapter. And I mean, there's not much to remember in terms of it going on. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll absolutely pick it up maybe where I left off at some point. Who knows when though? So I'm counting it as a DNF. I need a clean slate going into the last 6 weeks of the year. Because if you did watch our last wrap-up video, my goal before the end of the year is to read at least one more banger. And I can't do that if my brain is cluttered full of open tabs of books that I've read 150 pages of. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Wickham. I won't be finding out who killed you. Okay, before I continue with my pile, there's actually another book that I DNF'd earlier in the year that we no longer own because we gave it to charity. So that's how bad it was. And I won't talk about it for too long because this was a case of actually not liking the book. And that was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which was the first crime book club pick for the year in like my old workplace. And I don't know how much, I think I read properly like 100 pages and then I listened to the audio on 2.5 speed for another 30-40%, which I never do. I can't really do more than 1.2. So that tells you about everything. I was just trying to consume it in order to like participate in the book club. And I just thought it was silly and over the top and just, I mean, it was kind of satire, but not good satire. The mystery was not interesting. I don't get the hype about those books, to be honest. I do understand some people might have a good time if you just want something fluffy and entertaining while you're on the beach. Sure, it's just not what I look for in crime fiction. If you're going to give me a cozy murder mystery, it's going to have to be Agatha Christie or Jane Austen characters, maybe. Well, apparently not. But yeah, this one didn't do it for me. I didn't find it funny, even though it was very clearly trying to be funny. So yeah, no thank you. This was an actual I didn't like it DNF, which also doesn't happen that often to me generally, because I just stop reading books pretty early on if it's not doing it for me. But this year I had a few I didn't like at DNFs, so we're going to have to do something about that. This is nice wine. I might ruffle some feathers with the next one. I'm sorry, Nicole. The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Now this is very unfortunate because I have an ongoing project that I announced like 4 or 5 months ago on the channel that I want to read a book by every Nobel Prize winner in literature. And then I proceeded to not do anything about it. And then Han Kang won the Nobel Prize in 2024, and I figured, hey, you know what? This would be the perfect time for me to actually start this project that I said I was going to start. I've been struggling to read. I've been meaning to read her anyway. It's a short book. Now, the one that I wanted to read was Human Acts, but we got The Vegetarian in first, so I bought that first and figured, oh, I'll just read this in 2 days. I didn't. I did read most of it. I think I have like 50 pages left that will remain unread. Look, Carlos keeps telling people that I didn't like this book. And I keep saying that I didn't not like it. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. I didn't feel strongly about it whatsoever.
You didn't like it?
It, I don't think it's my brand of weird. It's good. It's objectively well written. And it did keep me intrigued for the time that I was reading. Evidently not the entire time because I did stop. But I don't know. I don't think I cared very much at all. And if I'd picked it up earlier in the year, I probably would have just read the last 50 pages and maybe even given it like a 3.5, 4 stars. But because I picked it up when I picked it up in the last month or so, and it'd been such a long time since I'd properly sunk into a book, like I feel like since the second half of August, honestly, I've barely been reading. The stuff that I have been finishing is stuff that I've then picked up and read in like a day and a half. But anything else I've just ran out of steam with, and it's been really frustrating. So this just didn't help. I just felt really annoyed that even a book under 200 pages I was just running out of steam with. So once again, kind of the wrong time maybe, but also not quite the right book in general. Like I think a combination. It's not a bad book. I'm not giving up on her as an author. I do want to try Human Acts at some point because that one appeals to me a good bit. But I didn't want to talk about this one for the Nobel Prize Project either because I haven't finished it. And that would be a bad way to start a project of that magnitude, I think. So I didn't talk about it in the wrap-up because I was thinking maybe I'd finish it, but I'm giving up. Life's too short and 2024 is too short, and my capacity to concentrate and my attention span are clearly also too short to read books that I'm just not feeling. I just don't think I entirely get it, to be honest. Like, I can tell that this is deep, apparently, but I don't really know what it's saying. So maybe that didn't help. It made me feel a little bit stupid. Nah.
You didn't like it?
I didn't, nah. My glass is empty. Thank you. We're going to go back to another one from a while ago. Another crime book club one, and that was 13 by Steve Kavanagh, which is a legal thriller, and ironically we picked it in the category of Irish crime fiction because Steve Kavanagh is Irish. Unfortunately, this particular book is him trying to be as American as humanly possible. So it's set in New York, and it's a legal thriller. The main character is a lawyer, and he's essentially a superhero in terms of not a literal, so he's not Daredevil, not that kind of lawyer superhero. But it's just incredibly unbelievable. It was like a bad 80s action movie with all the cheesy dialogue, only if it realized that it was bad, it would be fun, but it didn't quite realize that it was bad. At least that's how it read to me. So I gave up on this one, I think, a little bit quicker than on Thursday Murder Club. Again, I tried to audio after the first, 50, 70 pages, something like that. And I audioed a good bit. I think I audioed like more than half of the book. And eventually just gave up. And then somebody told me what the final twist was in the book club, and I forgot about it. That's not good. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this book. It was bad. I just don't think this was a good book. I kind of similarly to the Thursday Murder Club, I can see somebody just being entertained by it and just not questioning it and having a good time. That's fair enough. But I think if you read it, if you go into it wanting a good legal thriller, it's just not it. It's just not it. It annoyed me. It was so over the top cheesy and not tongue-in-cheek cheesy. Like, I like cheesy. I listen to boy bands, please. But this was bad, unfortunately. Might as well do the third one from the Crime Book Club. And the last one, I promise. So there was one more DNF from the Crime Book Club, and that was The Can by Simon Mir. And this one I did give up a lot quicker, because this one I didn't even try to go to the audio for. There's no bookmark in here anymore, so I don't remember how much I read, but I didn't get to the halfway point. Because this book committed the ultimate crime, and that is that it was boring. You can't be like, so the premise of this is that a British Pakistani woman who is a successful lawyer has distanced herself from her family. Her father runs like underground crime, and she has to come back when her father is killed, and take over the family business, basically. Great premise, right? Like, I love organized crime novels. They're fun. That's just my cup of tea. And then you add that there's a different perspective than it being Italian-American white men. So that makes it interesting. Cool. All right. So you're telling me the premise is that she comes back after the dad gets killed, and we're 100 pages in and the dad is still alive. What are you doing? And then the dad finally dies. And I'm like, okay, so maybe now we'll get going. Another 50 pages and nothing has happened. And then I just thought that the interesting bits, like the different terminology and like slang that they use that I wouldn't be familiar with, was not explained, just thrown out. So that was confusing, but then we weren't going into it in any kind of depth, which was what I thought would be interesting about the book. And then it just seemed like a lot of her actions were just not believable. I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And then I didn't finish it. I gave up on it. Went to the Crime Book Club. Nobody else liked it, which was very validating, honestly. And it was made for a very fun book club, because people complaining about a book can be just as fun as people gushing about it. But I do remember what the twist was here, and it just validated my feelings about it, to be honest, because it just felt shoehorned in, and like she put a twist in because nowadays it's a big trend for crime fiction to have like a final twist and another twist on top of the twist. But when it's not earned, it just doesn't work. And in this case, even just having read the first like 150 pages and then knowing what the twist was, that kind of reframes the entire thing. I was like, this contradicts things that she's actually telling you. Like, it actually doesn't work. Like, a twist works if nobody guesses it, and then the moment you get that information, you think, oh my god, of course, that makes so much sense, you know? Whereas this one was so out of left field that it would have been impossible to guess and just made no sense. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it wasn't terribly written. It wasn't like cringy or anything like that. So at first I was very, very willing to give it another go. And I was thinking, oh, it's just a bit boring. But plot-wise, I just don't think it worked. I think it fell apart. Very unfortunate for a subgenre that I very much enjoy. And I thought that this one was a very promising premise and also a cool cover. Like, I like how that looks. So I was very disappointed by this one. Ugh, there's one more. So after a couple of months of struggling to finish things, I was reading very slowly. Things were just not sticking, dropping a lot of things, even just stuff that I'm not mentioning in this video, because I was picking up books, reading 20 pages, thinking, yeah, this is good, and then just not continuing. I figured, okay, maybe I should go back to a section of the TBR of books that I've owned for years, that I've wanted to read for years, and just haven't picked up yet because there's something newer and shinier that my mind goes to. Or even, and maybe you can relate, if you have a book that you buy and you're pretty certain that you're going to like it, maybe based on who recommended it, or based on the author, or based on what you've heard about it, you're pretty certain you're going to like it. And then you don't read it because you feel like, oh, that's there for a rainy day. I know I'm going to like this. I'll go explore and back and forth, and I know that this is here. So I have a bunch of books like that, and I felt, okay, why don't I go to that pool and just read those books? I feel like I need a couple of months of just reading good books that I'm enjoying, of reading one book at a time, not getting distracted, not committing to anything. So I figured, okay, let's go to those books. And one of those, which is the one that I picked up, is The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair, which I've been wanting to read for like a decade, since it came out, probably. And I was pronouncing it Harry Quebert in my head until Carlos informed me that Quebert is the more likely pronunciation. But for the purposes of this video, and since I did not like the book, we're going to call him Quebert. Quebert. Even. Quebert. Joel Dicker. I don't know if this book is as huge in America as it was in Europe. So Joel Dicker is Swiss, I believe. He writes in French, and this became an enormous, enormously successful bestseller. Everybody was raving about it for a while, and he's written a bunch of more books that have also been successful since. My mother read it and really enjoyed it years ago, and she likes crime, so I figured, okay, it's time to read The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair. This is a 650-page book. I read more than half of it. I'm going to tell you, 341 pages. I think this is my disappointment of the year, because I was convinced I was going to like it, but also the first 200 pages made me think I was going to like it. Or maybe 150. I read the first 150 pages really quickly, and then I ran out of steam. And the thing is about this one is I could have kept going. I wasn't hate reading it. I wasn't completely bored with it. Oh, life's too short. If it had like 50 or 100 more pages, I would have finished. But another 300? Okay. Let me give you context. So what's this one? This one's about, I feel like ranting about this one because it's the last one, and also this was very recent and it's still an open wound. So basically, Harry Quebert is a writer, a very, very successful writer who wrote a masterpiece back in the 70s called The Origins of Evil, and his star pupil, his mentee, Marcus, is the main character, and he wrote a debut novel which was so successful that he was being stopped on the street by fans and paparazzis in New York. I don't believe that this is very realistic, but there we go. So he was basically living like a Hollywood movie star based on one debut novel. And he's also the most mediocre white man that I have read about this year, I think. Just somebody who thinks they're amazing and is really just average. And so is Harry Quebert, who we find out at the beginning of the book has been charged with murder because they found the bones of a 15-year-old girl that disappeared 30 years ago in his garden. And it turns out that he was having an affair with her when he was 34 and she was 15. And Marcus is very concerned about this. And you'd say, understandably so. He should be concerned. Yeah, he's concerned about his friend being charged with murder and how everybody is trying to cancel him and take his books out of libraries and things like that. He's not particularly concerned about the pedophilia of it all. That's fine. So that bothered me, but I figured, you know what? It could just be the character. That's fine. I'm okay with an unlikable protagonist. But then we start getting flashbacks and Harry tells his story, and I was just like, I'm not getting the sense that I'm supposed to dislike these characters. I feel like I'm supposed to believe what Harry's saying and what Marcus believes. And so Marcus basically sets out to write a book about this case to prove Harry's innocence. That's the premise of the book, right? So he starts investigating, and then we start unraveling what happened with this 15-year-old murdered child in the 70s as Marcus is writing a book about it. So it's quite meta. And if you've read the book, you might say, Yolanda, you only read half the book. The second half is what ties everything together. I know. I may have looked up the ending. I don't usually do that, but I was halfway through. I finished part 1, And I thought to myself, I'm really annoyed at this book. I think it's excusing pedophilia at the very least at this point. And I need to know is Harry innocent or not. And I won't reveal it here, don't worry. But I need to know, is Harry innocent or not? I need to know, is he an unreliable narrator or not? Because how that plays out will play into whether I think it's worth wasting my time on another 300 pages of this book, or if I should just leave it. And then I read, and there's a lot of twists. Apparently part 2 is full of twists. And I just read a little article that was explaining the genius of the book and the meta narrative, and how he just presents you with something and then it turns out to be completely different and you just fall for it. And I just thought, well, that's the issue, isn't it? I didn't fall for it. That, oh my God, nobody is what you think they are. And I'm like, no shit. It's a crime book about a small town where something mysterious happens. And you're telling me that not everybody is what you think they are. Genius. Genius. Also, the chapters are backwards. So it starts with chapter 30 something and then goes backwards. And every chapter starts with a little paragraph of like a little conversation between Marcus and Harry, where Harry is imparting his wisdom about writing. And it's just bad. Like, one line that is ingrained in my mind is like, Marcus asks, so Harry, how long does it take to write a book? That depends. On what? On everything. Genius. How deep. How profound. How profound. That just annoyed me. Like, I think writers should be extremely careful of having a character who is a writer who they say is a genius and then show some of their writing. Because even if the real writer is a good writer, just showing extracts of something and saying it's a masterpiece can backfire so easily. And in this case, we get extracts of what is supposed to be Quebert's masterpiece. And it's a love story about two lovers separated by class. So basically, he wrote the Notebook. And it's just not good. And I'm just like, you just don't do that. You can say this character is a genius and he wrote a masterpiece. Don't show me the masterpiece. Don't show it to me. I can imagine it's a masterpiece. I can't do that if you write it and it's not. Yeah, I didn't like the book. And the thing that annoyed me so much about it, I think, is that it lulled me into thinking it was going to be a good book. And people rave about it so much. And it's very easy to read. I could have continued. Again, maybe in a year when I read more bangers, I would have continued and just given it 3 stars. But, like, come on. It annoyed me so much. Ugh. I think I'm just not interested in books about writers. I think I'm just as uninterested in books about writers as I am in Hollywood movies about Hollywood. And there's so many of them. And sometimes I get the feeling that people think they're profound just because they're about what they are. And just because it's about writers and it tries to talk about writer's block and the craft of writing and how artistic it is, that doesn't mean it's profound. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's deep. I didn't really see the literary side of this. It's just a crime book just because it's trying to be meta. I don't know, there's better crime books out there. There's crime books out there with more literary value, with more to say about people and the nature of people and relationships and society than this. I think this is trying a little bit too hard. I feel like I'm being really harsh on it, but I'm a bit salty. Like, I gave this 350 pages. That's a few hours of my time at a time where I'm not very rich in time. Oh my god. Let's wrap this up. So I don't know if I can rank these in terms of what the worst books were. I think the worst ones were definitely 13 and the Thursday Murder Club, followed by The Can, probably. I'd say those are the worst ones. And then there's Dragonsbane is probably the best one. Dragonsbane and The Vegetarian are probably the best ones. The Vegetarian, I'd say, is just a case of wrong time and just not my taste, but objectively a very good book. Obviously, she won the Nobel Prize. Who am I to say that she's not good? And then Dragonsbane was just a case of the wrong time, but a book that I would absolutely enjoy. Otherwise, I've recommended it to people. And then somewhere in the middle are The Murder of Mr. Wickham, or is The Murder of Mr. Wickham, which is not like a great book by any means, but one that I would have absolutely finished under other circumstances, and there was no issue with it, just the wrong time. And then fucking Harry Quebert is just like definitely better than 13 and the Thursday Murder Club and The Can. Like, it's objectively a better book, but dear lord, I just didn't like it. Okay, I've come to the bottom of my glass and the end of this video, so let's wrap it up. This was fun. This felt like a nice release of general built-up annoyance from the last 10.5 months. I would love to know what you have DNF'd this year. I think let loose in the comments and tell me what book really annoyed you. Maybe it was something that everybody hypes up. Maybe it's something that I hype up and then you read it and you were like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are you talking about? This is terrible. What is wrong with you? Please let me know. I would love to see your saltiness in the comments. Or alternatively, you can also tell me how incorrect I am about my opinions expressed in this video. You can tell me which books you think I should give a second shot, or which authors I should give a second shot. Whatever you want, really, as long as you let me know and I can chat to you in the comments. If you would like me to drink more wine watching videos, you should give this video a like and even hit subscribe, because then I'll take that as a sign. And until then, thank you so much for watching these ramblings, and I will see you next time. Cheers.
You know, you could have just taken the thing off.
I could have. It's a very helpful suggestion. Thank you. Oh, it's already working.